else that we experience in our life. And so what is this real lack? Language access. We don't have access in our heart language. When we're born into hearing families and parents don't know sign language, there's no language access for us to learn and develop our communication skills. We have to be put into an environment where there's sign language, and often for many deaf children in Jamaica, that happens at age 5 or 6, the first time they're exposed to that language access. Also, because they're born in a situation where people don't know what to do with them, they're not affirmed in their identity as a deaf person. People look down upon them and see somebody as somebody who needs fixed or somebody who's cluttered, and that leads to self-esteem issues and lack of self-confidence internally. As we grow up, we try to get involved in community, but we're always facing barriers to being included. And so this is the real lack that we face in our lives, is community inclusion, is lack of access, barriers that limit us to be able to go into things and be involved simply because of the communication, the language barriers, where we're excluded instead of being included. And if we don't have language access, if we don't have affirmation of our identity, and we don't have community inclusion, how are we going to develop our knowledge where we can really improve ourselves, develop ourselves in our own community? We can't even go to university easily because there aren't enough interpreters available for us to go to university here locally. When we try to get job opportunities, we're limited because of this. So Blake's going to continue with the story of Deaf Can Coffee, but how it all started is by focusing on a community that had this, that lacked nothing. And so we started thinking, how do we encourage the self-esteem? How do we affirm the identity of these young people? So the idea was to go visit Clark. He's a family friend of mine from St. Elizabeth, where I grew up. I love St. Elizabeth. Those are where my roots are at. And he's a deaf man. He never went to school. He actually is illiterate, can't read and write, but he doesn't lack anything because he had language from when he was young. He had affirmation, inclusion in the community, and knowledge to learn, develop his own skills. He has his own farm, his own family, and he's successful as a person. So the idea was to take our students to meet Clark, that he would be an inspiration to them and inspire them, and that's where the roots of Deaf Can Coffee started. So our principle number one that we'd like to share with you today that we believe is essential to sustainable development is an asset-based approach. Instead of going in as a doctor and saying, oh, you're a deaf person, you lack hearing, let's fix that. Instead we say, oh, you're a deaf person, how do we use your visual gifts and the abilities that you have as a deaf person to focus on that? So Clark is an example of a person from the community. He's an asset. Instead of saying, what don't we have, we say, what do we already have? And we have Clark, somebody who's passionate about coffee. His passion spread to our students. So they watched him roast coffee over an open fire. This is how he does it. And they said, let's roast coffee too. So they packaged some coffee. At that time, they called it Top Hill Coffee because that's where Clark is from. But the second principle is participatory development, and we've heard that shared here today, because you have to have people from the community you're working with involved in every aspect of the development. You can't come in and say, this is what you're going to do. You have to ask them, what do you want to do? And so it started with just a field trip, but the students said, we want to roast coffee. So we started roasting coffee. The students said, we want to brew coffee. So we had a Mr. Coffee machine. They started playing around with it. One day somebody came to the school and said, can I buy a cup of coffee? That sparked the idea of, hey, we could have a coffee shop. So we started a coffee shop. The students got excited about that. We said, hey, we need capacity building because YouTube videos don't really cut it to be a barista. So we contacted some friends. We had a friend come down and do a 2-day barista skills training class with our students in April of 2015. You see those smiles? They're not feeling inferior anymore as a deaf person. They're saying, hey, I'm a barista. Look at the back of my shirt. That's who I am. And we saw their confidence growing. The third principle is collective impact and working together to build your capacity. We can't do this alone. And we're not here today because we put in all the hard work ourselves and we're successful. It's because other people came around us and rallied around us and supported us. This is November 2015. We went to a workforce inclusion conference at the Abilities Foundation because 3 of our deaf men went to school there for vocational training. It was put on by the Ministry of Labor, I believe. And Patrice, who's here today, love seeing Patrice because she was there at the beginning. She saw us there and she said, this is great. How can we from the Digicel Foundation support? I said, well, we have this little coffee shop, but it's going so well in the first 3 months. We'd like to open up a cafe training center and do more than just coffee. So Digicel Foundation gave us a grant. Tashna Edwards on the left, she's from Procom. Procom was building a new development site for their business, and they're going to have a cafe on the first floor. They said, hey, can you talk to us when we're ready to open? Could your baristas be the guys that serve coffee at our cafe? So we got the grant, we started building it, but we're participatory. We're not doing things for them. They can do it themselves. So our youth at the school and our young adults who we're employing were involved instrumentally in the building of their own cafe. And this is it today. It's a beautiful professional space where they train and learn on the best equipment because they can be the best baristas in Jamaica. Then in June, Sebi came to us and said, hey, would you like to be in our social incubator? We said, sure. We didn't even know what social enterprise meant at the time. All we were doing is trying to address the root issue in the lives of deaf youth, which is not a lack of hearing, but a lack of language, affirmation, community inclusion, and knowledge. So we started growing. But capacity building is important. We were roasting on a little electric roaster, that red thing on the left, that roasts a half pound of coffee at a time. But we were doing events where in one day we'd go through 5 or 6 pounds of coffee. So that's roasting for like 2 days to be able to serve one day. It's not sustainable. So we got a grant through JN Foundation, SEBI, and USAID to get a commercial roaster. Then we started partnerships. This is Cafe Nita in the first floor of the Procom building on Phoenix Avenue. So we work right alongside with hearing staff at a cafe. That led to our second partnership at Bocophilia that we started in December. In July, we got invited to be a part of Toyota Coffee House. Our baristas are there daily at Toyota Coffee House. Last month, Cafe Mocha in Montego Bay came to us and said, hey, we'd like to have your baristas too. Can you do that? We said yes. We had 2 youths who were involved in the start of Deaf Can Coffee in 2015 that graduated. They moved back to St. James and Westmoreland. We were in Kingston. They were slipping through the cracks. Through social enterprise and through partnership, we're able to re-engage 2 young men who otherwise would have been just sitting at home doing nothing. But now they're using their skills and their talents and their gifts to provide high-quality customer service at Cafe Mocha. So we're in 4 locations now, and coming soon in December, we're opening with Cannonball Cafe as well. So that's encouraging, right? But you have to sustain the momentum. So how do you do that? We heard Opal talk about it. You have to leverage your brand. You have to have a good brand, and you have to be able to build on that momentum because the staircase that we're going on doesn't stop at step 2 or 3. It has to continue. And so for sustainable advocacy to happen, you have to build that momentum. So you have to champion each success and share and talk about it. So while we were in Vienna receiving the Zero Project Award and Tashai was presenting at that global conference, our team that very same day was back here in Kingston presenting at the SEBI Pitch for Purpose competition, where Carla and Fabian, on their own, using the knowledge they'd gained through the social incubator, SEBI, put that into practice and won the business pitch competition and $1 million prize. So that immediately went right back into the business and helped us purchase a high ace that helps us go to mobile events with our brand all over it. Because we want everybody to know in Jamaica that a deaf can. A deaf person is not somebody who can't hear. A deaf person is somebody who can hear. They just use their eyes to do it. There's somebody who can speak. They just use sign language to do it. They're a person that can do literally anything you and I can do, and in some ways they can even do it better. So our social impact problem that we're addressing is not about a lack of hearing, but these 2 realities. Most hearing people think of a deaf person as somebody who can't. As a result of that, our deaf youth grow up with lack of self-esteem and no affirmation of their identity that leads them to believe, I can't. So they sit back and they accept nothing for their lives. We want to change that. So we change that by engaging advocacy. And that's why we want every person in this room to walk away from this today believing that deaf can. Through that, we will equip our deaf youth with the skills and the confidence through work experience and real jobs to believe that they can too. And the result of that will be empowering a change in all of us, where nobody looks at a deaf person anymore as somebody who can't, but somebody who can. So through that, we're filling up the lack that exists. And it's not a lack of hearing, it's language access that enables learning. It's affirmation of a deaf identity and a positive view that says, hey, God made you deaf, that's fine. You're just like anybody else and you're a masterpiece. And we affirm that identity to grow self-esteem. Sorry, I'm not going to keep going long. My husband's already talked too long, so I'm going to try to keep it short. We also have to focus on being included in the community where a person can stand for themselves, where our youth learn to stand in front of an audience and share that. It gets emotional for me when I think about the growth I've seen through our young men and women. Inclusion in the community, we don't want to have anybody feel excluded. We want everybody to be able to be included where they can recognize that they are equal. And the last thing we need is knowledge that allows development. Through language access, affirmation of identity, and inclusion, we will see improved access to knowledge, and we'll see incredible change. Because it's not a lack of hearing at all, but deaf can, and we want to affirm that. So you see again the power of perspective. It's not about a lack of hearing, but we believe that deaf can. I was just recently, the last couple of days in Boston. I just got back at 3 this morning, so I'm still a little bit tired. But just this week, I was in Boston for an inclusion conference where I got to meet Marley Matlin and Mandy Harving, two people who are proving that deaf can. Everybody knows Marley Matlin already, but Mandy Harvey, she was just a contestant in America's Got Talent. She lost her hearing at an older age, became profoundly deaf, but she's still a singer, and she's a songwriter. And it's honored to meet her, but we don't want this to just be a Jamaican message. We want this to be a global message that affirms that deaf can. Thank you.
I hear from DEFCON, I'm truly, truly inspired, and I just want to say two things: that you will get a chance to view a little bit more of what they do at the CRP booth, but I also wanted to mention, Tashai spoke about, certainly in Jamaica, a lot of the persons in the deaf community are not able to access higher education. And I want to just really highlight Tashai as an excellent example, because she is the holder of a BSc in psychology and counseling. She has a master's in education, and she is the executive director at the Caribbean Christian Center for the Deaf. And I'm just highlighting that to say, I think when we talk about a community of persons being included and having an identity that's not, it might be somewhat different, but we see the similarities with us. As they said, there are no different really. So it's a matter of perspective, but we all have an identity, and I think that through DEFCON and through the leaders, that we see that clear demonstration and how they are using the model to help a community to recognize that they do have identity and they do belong in the wider society. So let's give them another round of applause, please. And I won't come back up until the other persons have presented. So help me welcome the Project Development Manager at Mustard Seed Community, Mr. David Silvera.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a friend of mine's brother was running for the student council at his university. All Jamaicans, they're running for the Jamaican Student Council at University of Toronto. And my friend, the fellow was running for president, went up there, was very animated, started to talk about, we all born here. They're in Toronto, but he got the whole room singing, I man born here. We all go back a yard. He became president. My friend's brother had to go up there and tell him about the figures for the organization. He was the treasurer. He did not get reelected. I follow Blake at all these things. I know that feeling. Our position at Mustard Seed is a little different. I'd like to thank the PIOJ, JCIF, JN Foundation, Ministry of National Security, JPS for being here today and for putting this on. To Mr. DeRosa, I have to tell you, you have very small shoes to follow, but a big heart. Jamaica loved that lady who was here before, so I'm sure you can live up to that. By the way, Mustard Seed hasn't gotten its order for ceramics for Christmas yet. I'm just teasing you, but serious. Every year. No, we're in a little different situation. A lot of you know Mustard Seed is a Catholic-based charity, and we care for severely disabled, physically and mentally, children, children with HIV/AIDS, and we also have a home for abused teens who are going to have babies. And most of the people who we look after cannot be a part of what we do. Some can, and we get them involved, but most can't. And social enterprise has really been a way that we have found to help. We have 14 homes here in Jamaica. We have 3 homes in Zimbabwe. We have 2 homes in Nicaragua. We have 1 in the Dom Rep. We've just opened 1 in Malawi. By the way, Mustard Seed opening a home is Monsignor sending a brother with a few dollars in his pocket to go find a place to look after children. That's what we do. And social enterprise has made a big difference for us. The social enterprise at Mustard Seed goes back 30 years with our ceramics program that JPH is going to help us with for Christmas. And also JN Foundation, getting away, Oprah. But it has always been on a small scale. As they say in Jamaica, try a little thing, make a little something. But in today's environment, organizations like us, like the School for the Deaf, it's getting harder and harder to find funds as the needs become more and more. So you have to help yourself. So we have our ceramics program, which we did $5 million last year with, which we hire people from the inner city communities. And then we have what Sebi has been amazing for, which is our farms and our produce. Eggs are the large one. We're doing some pilot projects now where we're going to do high-end vegetables like cilantro, basil. You'll see these in the supermarkets, hopefully. But we also want to sell directly. So your organizations, your government offices, your embassies, we will be dropping off eggs to you. That way we cut out the middleman and Mustard Seed can keep all the profit. But it is, because it's what we're here about. We're a social enterprise. And everybody in this room, Patrice was fundamental. USAID and GN gave us a business plan. Patrice at the time at Digicel gave us the money. And so we have been able to expand, and we've taken an operation that was making maybe $6-7 million a year to making $16 million last year. Now, it sounds like a lot of money, but in an organization like Mustard Seed, that is really a small drop in the bucket, but it's a bucket that's increasing. The best practices we have is, as I said here before, you have to get your people involved. There's a young man by the name of Jerome. He can't walk. He has a cart. It even has reverse. That's how ingenious he is. But he's a part of our egg project. And every day, he's so excited to to get into his little cart, to pull himself into his little cart, to drive his cart, which he does by this, down to his office, where he partakes in his business. We have another part. We hire mainly, one thing with Mustard Seed is we try to put our homes in the worst communities and to bring those communities up. We now have 32 staff members who are egg sellers in their communities. Now, all of you here are in social development. You know that the corner store in these communities, everything is more expensive. So where I pay X to buy some eggs, somebody who makes 1/50th of the eggs I make have to pay more because they're buying in their community. So we have empowered our staff, and there's about 32 to 35 of them now, and they sell eggs in their community. And that margin that would go to the supermarket, that would go to the wholesale, we give it to them. And everybody always says, you have winners and you have losers. There are no losers in this situation. People in the communities are getting eggs cheaper. I have a sales force that is empowered, and they work for me. When I say me, I mean Mustard Seed. So I control their pay. I can give them the eggs on credit because I don't have to worry about getting the money. So I have peace of mind, they have income. And that's how you have to do it. And another thing about a social enterprise, and I know Mustard Seed is seen as a large organization in this space, mainly because we're a large charity. But the business has to be the key, and anyone here can tell you that. Sometimes you have to cut your client, and your client can be a big hotel. But if they're not going to pay you, and they're not going to be reasonable, there are lots of other people I can sell eggs to. And that's the hard reality of a social enterprise. You may be a charity, but you're not doing this for charity. You're doing this to help the people who have to access your charity. And we mustn't forget that. Sell the story. Sell the story. We're quite fortunate with that. The story for every social enterprise, whether it's DEFCON, whether it's Michael here, or whether it's us, is a powerful, powerful tool. And you have to use it. You have to use it to the best of your ability, because that's what's going to reach people and touch people. And you know what? I might sell my dozen eggs a little more expensive, but they're going to buy it from you, because they know that the money from those eggs that they make their eggs for, or make their omelets for, or make their Christmas punch from, Christmas is coming up, is buying HIV drugs for a kid, is getting a wheelchair for a child or an adult. And that's why you have to sell your story. I see the UNDP is here today, and I thank you very much for your offer, because we do need that. And just to let you know, from within the SEBI incubator, DEFCON and Mustard Seed, we're going to start at DEFCON's Coffee House, facilitating our social enterprises to meet together. All the people who have been in the incubator, we can exchange ideas, exchange time. So my time is up. I just want to tell you, it is possible, but you have to run it as if you're Google or Apple. Don't think you're a small man. You can do it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm representing AlphaWare JA, which is a social enterprise of the Sisters of Mercy and the Alpha Institute. We'll be just playing a small video clip to know a little bit more about what the AlphaWare do as a social enterprise. AlphaWare JA is a social enterprise of the Alpha Institute. It is a profit-making business to sustain trade training programs for community youth who especially have academic challenges in completing high school education. Alpha Institute ventures into this social enterprise for the development of our youth in order to make them employable, reduce poverty, and improve lives. AlphaWare JA as a business is in existence for over a year, producing screen printing products. The business covers a range of products from screen prints on t-shirts, ceramics, and embroidery. The AlphaWare JA is about branding your company logos at an affordable price. We can design and print t-shirts for your parties, your running and sport events. We cover all your screen printing needs, and we are capable of providing international quality. AlphaWare JA products include conference bags, school bags, and tote bags. We have high-level production capacity, and our turnover time is about 3 to 5 days. Every t-shirt you print at AlphaWare JA allows you to cover a young man with a coat. You become a catalyst for improving lives. In the last 3 years, we have registered about 300 community youth into the Heart Level 1 and Level 2 trade programs. The success of AlphaWare JA will mean double the registrations, and about 200 youth will become employable on an annual basis. Buy social and grow the Jamaican economy. The JN Foundation and their Social Enterprise Boost Initiative project has assisted AlphaWare JA tremendously with developing our screen printing products and capacity building. AlphaWare JA can be contacted at 618-3302 or email us at alphascreenprinting@gmail.com. Visit our website and shop online, or make your order online at www.alphaboyschool.org.
No one really needs to know much about Alpha Institute, which was a transition from the Alpha Boys home 3 years ago. The school had various trade training programs since 2014, but we needed funds to finance the new program we had, which is to teach music and various other heart level programs. A year ago, the screen printing business we started was losing a lot of money, and we were in the verge of closing it. Then when we heard about the SEBI program from the JN Foundation, we thought this might be an opportunity to sustain the business, but also bring the money that we need to run the programs that we have at the Alpha Institute. So some of the 5 basic principles of the social enterprise that we developed were, first, to have the business plan. Business plan is crucial for any social enterprise, and SEBI enabled us to provide that. You know, you can do a million ways your business plan, but one way to do is to follow the SMART strategy, which is S stands for specific. Be very specific as to what exactly your social enterprise deals with. And so SEBI and JN Foundation supported us to develop that SMART-based business plan. Be specific, have measurable target, then achievable target, then R stands for be relevant, realistic program. Then T stands for time-bound business plan. The second element of the social enterprise we based on was to know your market. Alpha Institute, being the Catholic organization run by the Sisters of Mercy, we were able to target people who are associated with us from the Catholic institutions, whether it is schools, primary schools, high schools, also Catholic organizations that are incorporated within the Catholic Church. But also those organizations that partner with us were able to get involved in the business, which enabled us to actually move from a losing business. After 10 months now, we were able to double our revenue. We were having a $1 million sale revenue last year. We're able to go up to $3.5 million sale revenue. The third aspect is a little bit of money for all the work we do at Alpha Institute, but still it enables us to move forward because social enterprise has a place to bring in money for the work we all want to do in our communities. So the third aspect that we worked on very seriously is to know the product line. You have to know, if you are thinking of having a social enterprise, you have to know what your product is. And any product you are trying to build, there is ISO, international standards available, even from the internet. Once you can follow and understand the process of all that is involved in the product, you cannot just go wrong because it enables you to do the best and bring out the quality product. For example, if we are people who Jamaican patties, if you have had the tasty patties 20 years ago and now, and it's Jamaican tasty patties. Suppose if you take bedroom tonic in the morning or in the evening, it has to have the same effect. So in other words, the product have to bring the quality we are looking for. And I think the third aspect of the product is that you know the runnings of your product. And that was established in the screen printing we do. The fourth element of our business that we did was to know who the suppliers are, who are our competitors, and work along with them and know how to get into the market. And the fifth aspect of the business strategy that we had was to know your social mission. It can't